Hola, muy buenos días. Bienvenidos a esta sesión informativa con London School of Economics and Political Science. En la mañana de hoy contamos con la compañía de dos representantes de la universidad quienes estarán atentos a brindarles toda la información sobre la universidad y a responder sus preguntas en el chat. Como siempre, los invitamos a que a medida que vayan teniendo sus preguntas, las vayan colocando en el chat. Diego, quien nos va a estar apoyando desde LSE con las preguntas en el chat, irá contestando algunas de ellas. Y al final de la sesión, cuando Nathan termine su presentación, leeremos en voz alta las que son más representativas o las que creemos que cubren pues, la mayor generalidad de las preguntas que ustedes tengan. Entonces, mi nombre es Joana Torres, trabajo en el área de consejería académica. El objetivo de hoy es contarles sobre este convenio que tenemos. Es el más exitoso de Colfuturo, es el convenio a donde más beneficiarios van cada año. Nuestro convenio con LSE establece que tenemos una beca del 100% para un estudiante del programa Semillero de Talentos. El convenio dice un año, una beca, sin embargo les cuento que en los últimos años nos han dado siempre 2 becas para 2 semilleros de talentos y quienes no salgan favorecidas por estas becas, la universidad les da un 20% en el descuento de la matrícula. Entonces ahí sí no importa si son semilleros o no. Para quienes no saben qué es el programa de semilleros, los invito a que visiten nuestra página web, allí les explicamos en detalle en qué consiste este programa. Y para esta convocatoria, si ustedes no hacen parte del semillero de talentos, no tendrían posibilidad de participar dentro de este convenio, porque uno de los requisitos es que sea una persona que ya venga siendo parte del programa de semillero, por lo menos desde octubre del año pasado. Entonces, sin más preámbulo, le doy la bienvenida a Nathan y a Diego, nuestros expositores de LSE, para que comencemos la presentación. Nathan, Diego, good morning, and thank you for joining us today. Go ahead.
Thank you so much, Joanna, and thank you so much, everyone, for choosing to be here this evening. Now, my Spanish is not great. I apologize. So I'm going to be speaking this morning in English, but I will try and take it relatively slow. And if anyone has any questions or can't make out what I'm saying, do just let us know. But as Joanna said, it's very, very nice to be here. This morning for you guys, it's evening here. I'm actually in Germany at the moment. My house isn't actually this nice, as you can see the background behind me. So very good evening from Germany. And really the plan is to have a bit of a conversation with you for the next 15 or 20 minutes or so about the London School of Economics. And now it's my job to meet people like yourself, prospective students, parents, guardians, counsellors, to talk about what LSE can offer you. And I'm very pleased to say that I'm joined by Diogo, as you heard there, who is going to be furiously answering questions in the chat and Q&A. And as Joanna said, please feel free to put questions as we go, and we'll either get to those at the end or we'll send you a written message. And really, just to start with, it's a great pleasure to be here, as I say, because LSE has worked with Colfuturo for many, many years. And I actually think the really difficult challenge that you've got in front of you and that you're going to face when making the application is just how much choice you have. As you know, you can apply for sort of over 140 different universities around the world with which you can use your funding for a master's, for a PhD. And actually just within London, you'll see that there's a number of different universities that offer programs that you can use funding for. And people don't sometimes realize just how many universities there are in London. So on screen, I've just put on screen here, all the universities within about 1 mile of where LSE is. And now in total, there are about 40 different universities. Some will be very specialized, some will be small, some will be big. And so really what I wanted to do just to start with this morning is just explain to you why LSE is different. And now I know that every university wants to tell you about how different and how great they are, but LSE genuinely is a very, very unique university. And I just wanted to maybe explain to you why, just to start with. And what I always like to do is to kind of take you back a little bit to when LSE was founded. And now LSE was founded 130 years ago. And I want you to think to yourself, what kind of things are happening in society 130 years ago? What kind of events are happening? What changes are taking place? And just to give you some ideas, so technology is changing rapidly, right? It's changing the way people communicate. It's changing the way people travel, how industries work. This is having an effect on economies, and economies are getting bigger and involving more people and more places than ever before. Additionally, massive social change. You think about this time, the role of women. You think about this time, life expectancy and demographics. And finally, the relationships between countries are becoming more complicated, in some points degrading to the point of war. And now all of this is happening 130 years ago. And LSE's founders wanted to understand these changes. They wanted to understand why political systems worked the way they did, why social change was taking place, why economies were getting more complicated, and all these things. And so what they did was they set up a university in the heart of London, which was dedicated to understanding social issues. And now, just to give you a sense, I really like this picture to make this point. So on screen, you can see where we are in London. And actually, like I say, LSE was meant to understand social issues. And what was very, very important, and still is important to us today, is that as a university, we are not cut off from society. We are meant to be a part of society. We are meant to be engaged with real world issues. And I think this is really nicely shown by just showing you our location, right? So you can see LSE on screen at the bottom. We're actually right next door to the Royal Courts of Justice. And now the Royal Courts of Justice are the highest legal chamber in the UK, the equivalent of the High Court. We're down the road from the City of London, so you can see the skyscrapers in the back. So the financial, economic, business capital. And if you were to go west off screen, you'd be at Covent Garden. But go a little bit further and you're at 10 Downing Street, you're at Parliament. And so what hopefully this shows you, that as a university that was meant to understand legal questions, economic and financial questions, as well as political questions, our location matters. And actually LSE has always had a very active engagement with the world. We are not cut off from it. And to give you one example of this, one of LSE's very first directors, someone called William Beveridge, wrote a report in the 1940s that actually went on to form the basis of the National Health Service in the UK. So LSE has always had a very important influence in the real world, in government issues, in economic issues. We are not cut off from society. And really, just to give you a few more numbers on this, so as I say, so LSE is a very unique university because we are the only university in the UK which is just social sciences. So we have no chemistry students at LSE, no engineering students, no medicine students. Everyone at LSE is interested in the same questions, those legal questions, those economic questions, those political questions I was talking about a minute ago. But maybe slightly differently, again, to some other London universities, is we are quite a small university. So we're only 12,000 students in total. And actually, again, quite unusually, the majority of our students are graduate students. So are studying for a master's or studying for a PhD. So that means if you do choose to come to LSE, actually the majority of people there have already completed their bachelor's and they are studying master's, PhD, these kind of things. And as well, so I say that we're a small university, 12,000 might sound like a lot, but to give you a comparison, UCL and King's College London, they are 45,000 students. So again, we're quite a small university with a very kind of selective field of interest. And the final thing to say is that we just have one campus. So we are just based in one location in the centre of London. So you are coming to the same place every day. You are seeing the same faces. You're not going to be spread out over the city with sort of, tens of thousands of students. And now, In terms of what you can do, now, of course, with the Col Futuro funding, there are a few limitations on this. But if you are interested in coming to LSE for graduate study, the problem, again, is just how much choice you have. So in total, we have over 160 different degree programs that you might be interested in. These range on screen from taught masters. And so within taught masters, again, there is a spectrum. So you can do an MSc, a Masters of Science, you can do a Master of Arts, you can do a Master of Law, Master of Public Administration, Master of Public Policy. There's all kinds of options. But typically you'll find that the majority of our programs are either 9 or 12 months in length. And they will include a combination of lectures, classes, workshops, seminars, maybe some placements, depending on your course, maybe some work with industry. But that's what you should expect. And the class sizes, I would say, are relatively small without being, scarily small, at around 10 to 15 students per class. We'll talk more about all of this in a minute, but this is just an introduction. On the research side of things, again, we have a range of different research programs if you are interested in doctoral studies. And typically our research programs will last from 3 to 6 years, depending on your interests and how quickly you are able to complete that research. Of course, as part of that doctoral studies, you will be producing a large piece of original research, normally 100,000 words or more, that really contributes to understandings in the social sciences. Now, I should have also just note at this point, of course, that if you were interested in doing a PhD, the Col Futuro funding does only cover 3 years worth of study, okay? So this is important to keep in mind. Although some PhD programs and actually some master's programs can last longer than what I've said on screen there, the funding will only cover you for so much. And this is a good point, I think, just to kind of take stock, actually, of what our offer is and our long partnership with Col Futuro. And now I'm not going to go through the details because if you're here today, I'm sure you've already done your research. Maybe you are thinking about applications, but I did just want to draw your attention to the information at the bottom of the screen, which is that actually, maybe Joanna can correct me, but we are one of the Col Futuro's oldest partners. And actually, since the founding of the organization, almost 700 Colombian students have come to LSE, something like 23 or $22.8 million in financial aid. So this is a very long relationship. LSE welcomes a huge number of students from Colombia and from Col Futuro every single year. So you're entering into a very big community of people like yourself already at LSE. I've also mentioned there that, some of the most popular destinations. So we find that a lot of students who apply for funding with Col Futuro, lots of them go into the School of Public Policy, which is very much aimed at people who work in the government, who work in civil service. But we also get a large number of students who come to us for masters in law. They come to us in master's programs in management, in economics. But as it says at the bottom of the screen, everything is open to you. Or I'm pretty sure that basically everything we offer is open to you at the taught masters level. Again, as long as it falls within that year-long or 3-year PhD program. So just to say what is available, sometimes I think people can see that the E in our name and they just presume that we do economics and we just do finance. And of course, the social sciences covers a lot wider range than that. So a few kind of disciplines and subjects you might not have thought about before. So we offer degrees on sociology, in psychology, but also, as you can see on the right-hand side, just for graduate students, things like health policy, things like gender studies, media and communication, international development. So again, you have a huge range of choice. And although we are specialised in the social sciences, there is still a lot available to you. And now at this stage, what I wanted to do is just spend 1 or 2 minutes, hopefully giving you some reasons why I think that, studying at LSE is a good idea. And now I'm biased because I studied at LSE as an undergraduate and as a postgraduate student, but Diogo didn't. So maybe he can shake his head if he thinks I'm going, completely off the wall, in my opinion, but just a few things, I guess, to take away. And I think the first kind of point I really wanted to flag is the kind of academic life of the university that you're entering into. Now, I hope that, the fact that you're here today means you might have already heard about LSE, you know about LSE, but it's really true to say that LSE has a worldwide reputation for being at the very, very forefront of development in economics, in sociology, in the social sciences, I'm trying to say. Right? Now, that means that LSE academics are some of the top academics, the top researchers, the best teachers of anywhere in the world. These are people who, if you are studying economics right now, or if you are studying philosophy right now, or sociology, or whatever it is at a university, you've probably read some of their works. You might have seen LSE academics on the news. You might have heard them on the radio, because these are the people at the very, very top of their game. It means that, as an example, the director of our School of Public Policy, Andreas Velasco, he is the former finance minister of Chile. We also have one very notable alumni, which I had to include today, Juan Manuel Santos, who was an LSE student and constantly comes back to LSE to give lectures, to give talks, to interact with our students. So you are entering into an academic community where you are encouraged to have discussions, to have debates, and to learn from the people who are really at the very, very top of their research. And these are the people teaching you, right? These are the people who are in class with you every single week, and you get to talk to and learn from and find out about their own research and their own ideas. Alongside that, of course, studying abroad, as Culturo supports, is not just about kind of what you're studying. It's also about the cultural experience. It's also thinking about where you're going to be for your studies. And it's true to say that London is one of the most diverse, exciting, and opportunity-filled cities of anywhere in the world. In fact, it's been rated by QS as the best city in the world for students for, I think, 7 years in a row now. I may have completely made that number up, but it's a good number of years. And the reason for that is because there are so many students in London. There are around about 600,000 students in London. And that means there is so much on offer to you, whether it's going to comedy venues or nightclubs or trying out bars, trying out restaurants, going to museums. And because there are so many students, all of these places will offer student discounts. They may offer student-only events, student-only nights, these kind of things. Alongside that, I think, again, another very important thing that I wanted to flag this evening for me, given the audience, is what an international place LSE is. So as you can see on screen, the majority of students at LSE are not from the UK. The majority of students come from places like Colombia. They come from Africa, they come from the USA, they come from India, they come from China, they come from all over the world to London to study social, political, economic issues, bringing their own perspectives, bringing their own backgrounds to those conversations. And what actually tends to happen is people come from all over the world to LSE, to study how society works, study how political systems work, etc. And they will quite often go back to their home country or go overseas to wherever it may be, and make a positive difference, not only in their own lives, but in the lives of their communities. So you can see on the bottom of the screen, I'm not sure where we get this number from, but that 37 world leaders have studied or taught at LSE. And it includes the people you can see on screen there, but also people are always surprised when I say John F. Kennedy registered as an LSE student. So people come from around the world to LSE. That's amazing in terms of the people you meet, the engagement you will have with people from all over the world. But then also you have a huge network once you leave of LSE alumni who are making a positive difference in their home countries and around the world. Final point I wanted to make before moving on to the kind of application side for the last few minutes is graduate outcomes. And this is important, right? Because I don't think you should choose a university and choose a course just because you think it's going to get you a good job, or just because you think it's going to get you into a big firm or whatever it is. But I still see education as an investment, right? You are investing money into your future. And more importantly, you are investing time. You're investing a year of your life, or maybe 3 years of your life, into your education. So I think it's completely fair to ask, well, what's at the other side for me? What's waiting? And what I've done on screen is I've put a breakdown here of UK universities by graduate prospects. So we're talking about how quickly people find jobs, starting salary. It's all combined and aggregated for this particular table. And as you can see, LSE is ranked second in the UK for graduate prospects, higher than Oxford and Cambridge, which I love saying. And the point to be is that leaving LSE, you are in a very strong position. Employers value the kind of education we provide to students and the kind of students who leave LSE. And this, of course, isn't just a matter for the UK. In the most recent QS World Rankings, LSE was ranked 7th in the world for employer reputation, meaning that employers see someone with an LSE degree in the same kind of area as, someone who went to Oxford, as someone who went to Cambridge, Imperial, but also Harvard, also Yale, also MIT. LSE is in that same bracket. So you are really well set up, I think, to pursue careers in Columbia, maybe outside of Columbia later on, with an LSE degree. And actually, LSE graduates do all sorts of things. We find that about 25% of our students go into banking, go into finance, but the rest go all over the place. We get huge numbers of students who go into government, who go into think tanks, who go into international organizations, who go into education. So I really think an LSE degree sets you up for all kinds of careers in all kinds of destinations after you leave. And now, to wrap up, just for the last few minutes, what I did want to just touch on, and I should stress this is just a touch on because there's a lot I could say here, and we don't really have a huge amount of time this morning, just a little bit about admissions, applications, and fees. Now, of course, each of our programs at LSE does set a minimum entry requirement. So what I've done is I've listed on screen at the top of each kind of bracket what we ask for in terms of the UK system. So, for example, you can see as taught masters, we require an upper second class honours. The UK has a weird grading system. If you don't know what that means, ignore it, forget about it. Just look at the equals underneath. So I've translated for you there what we would be looking for in a degree from a Columbian university. Okay, so you can see if you want to come and study a taught masters at LSE, typically we will need to already have completed your bachelor's, of course, with an overall mark of 4.0 upwards. And one really important thing to stress is that for our research PhD programs, normally we do already require you to have a master's. This isn't true of all of them, but I would say for most of LSE's PhD programs, you already are going to need to have a master's degree. This can be from Columbia or this could be from somewhere else with a minimum overall mark. As you can see, 4.0 out of 5 or 5.0 if you're in a grading system out of 6. Okay. Some programs at LSE will also require you to submit GRE or GMAT results. These tend to just be the programs that have a high level of maths content. So, for example, if you want to study finance at LSE, economics, mathematics, statistics at LSE, you're probably going to need to do a GRE or GMAT test. The final piece in terms of the requirements is we do require a high level of English language proficiency. This isn't just because we're being difficult, it's because we want to make sure that you are able to meaningfully contribute and participate to conversations. And so it's well worth having a look on our website. But we accept IELTS, we accept TOEFL, we accept A-levels in English, we accept all kinds of things. So you can have a look at that online. The really key thing is that with the English language proficiency, you don't need to have that when you apply. you can actually provide that later. So if you just apply to us with your degree marks and say, look, I want to study this master's, that's fine. What we would then ask you to do is make sure that by the time you arrive at LSE, that you've given us suitable proof of English language through taking an IELTS test or something like that. Okay. In terms of the application process itself, if you're interested in applying for a master's or PhD, you go through the same online application. Now, this always opens in either September or October, the year before you want to start. So let's say you want to start in September 2024, the application will open for you September, October 2023. The cost of the application is £80, but what that does include is your application can actually go to 2 different programs. So it can be hard to narrow down what you want to do, but you can apply to at least 2 in the same program, meaning that you'll be considered for your option A and your option B. The application will include, the things you would expect. So you send us your CV, you will send us a statement of academic purpose, which is essentially a short essay talking about your interests, talking about why you want to do the course, what your career aspirations are, maybe some of your own ideas that you've done or some of your own research projects, these kind of things. If you want to do a PhD, the extra thing you will have to do is submit a research proposal. And now, of course, a minute ago, I said if you do a PhD, you are going to be doing a very significant piece of writing. We need to know what that's going to be. In the process of application, we need to know that what your research idea is, what your research topic is. So again, just for PhD students, you have to provide a research proposal. You also have to provide us with 2 references to sort your application, but there we go. The really, really key thing with this is that for our taught masters programs, we work on a rolling admissions basis, meaning that we close applications on a program by program basis when they are full. Okay, so we don't have a fixed deadline for most of our programs. So we're in February now, right? Yeah, February. So we've been open for quite a few months, but we still have many programs open now that are going to take students this September. So I can't tell you when they'll close. They'll just close one day when they're full. For PhDs, it's a little bit different, and there is normally a deadline. And that's because with PhDs, you will normally also have to do an interview. You may have to come and talk more about your research proposal. So deadlines, PhD, taught masters, rolling admissions. So my advice, honestly, if you're sat there interested in this, aim to apply by the kind of end of December into January, if the application opens in September, right? That's because then you'll have plenty of time still to be considered. It's not going to have closed. And it also gives you plenty of time to make the practical arrangements, to sort out your funding, to sort out accommodation. Okay. On that, so of course, there are fees attached to each of our programs. These really, really, really vary depending on what you want to study. At the lower end, things like history, sociology, £16,000 a year. At the much higher end, things like management and finance can go up to £40,000. Now, of course, keep in mind that LSE provides a 20% contribution to this. So you can basically take 20% off this if you are a Col Futuro beneficiary. So you get that contribution from us to help out with these fees. Information on living costs is on screen. I'm going to skip past that. There's lots more information on our website. But the one thing I did also really want to flag is at the bottom of the screen, it's worth noting that there are additional support funds out there, offered through LSE, offered through external providers. Now, if you are given Col Futuro funding, it is made less likely that you'll be given other sources of funding because you've already got quite a lot there. But nonetheless, we do still have support schemes and awards that are there for all students who need it. The graduate support scheme, as you can see, is very generous in that it offers between £5,000 to £15,000 to students who need help covering their fees, who need help covering their living costs. And we have a whole range of other master's awards, scholarships, studentships, based on all sorts of criteria. Now, just to wrap up, I wanted to provide one more additional thing for your diary, which is the first time we've shared this. So this is still very early, but I wanted to let you know that we will be in Colombia. Later next month, I will be in Colombia. We're going to host a public event. We are going to be visiting a few different universities. This is still quite early, so the details haven't been published yet, but I wanted to pop this in just to say, if you're interested in coming along and having a chat in person, have a discussion about your application, what have you, I'm more than happy to see you at one of the events that we'll be running. The best way of finding out the details when they're published is to be on our mailing list. Now, I believe that we're going to get the emails of everyone who's registered for this session. We will get in touch with you after today, but you can also sign up for our mailing list with the QR code on screen, and you'll be the first to hear when we do publish details of those events. Now, at this stage, I'd just like to say thank you so much. I've gone slightly over there, but there's a lot to say. I was excited to say. So at this stage, I'll say thank you so much for listening, and I'll hand back over to Joanna and Lady, who I can see now, to see if we've got any questions.
Yeah, hi Nathan, hi Diego, how are you? So yeah, we have a lot of questions, but before that, I want to say thank you so much for your presentation. It's really useful for all of us. So I have different questions, and the first one, it's about how can I improve my chances of getting into LSE? Like just in general, what would be that advice for this?
Yeah, wow, that's a big question. So I'll give you one piece of advice. So thank you for the question, whoever asked it, which is that at LSE, we're not just looking for the best students, right? So of course, we're looking for the best students, we're looking for good students, but we are also looking for students who are going to fit on the program. And the example I always give for this is, now at LSE, we offer geography, right? But our geography, because we are social sciences, is purely human geography. So we're not interested in, geology and rocks and clouds and these things. We're just interested in human geography. But every year we get applications from people who talk at length about, their background in natural geography and how they're really interested in this or that. And those people, even though they might be really good students, aren't the right ones for us. So what I actually recommend to people is really do your research on the individual program, and have a look at what courses you would actually take within each program. Now, you can actually look, when you read about each program online, what courses you take. I don't think a bad idea, and again, this isn't the only way to do it, is to talk about each of those courses in your application, right? So you can say in your statement of purpose, look, I'm going to take this course at LSE, and here's my reason why, and here's all the things I already know. I'm also going to take this course, and here's my reasons why, and here's the things I know. And that does two things, right? One, that shows us that you've done your research and you're serious about this. But two, and this is the crucial bit, it shows us that you are going to be a good fit. Like I was saying before, that you are someone who has really thought about this, and you are going to fit into the community at LSE and the program that you've applied for. So that's what I would say. Really do your research and talk about the specific bits of the course that you are going to be doing and that interest you.
Thank you, Nathan. We're going to go with Paula. That's like a specific situation, and she's saying, I'm in process at LSE. However, I'm in the step of the process where I must submit my English proficiency test. There is IELTS academic and IELTS UKVI academic. I have seen that for visa purposes, we need the second one. However, I want to confirm this test is also acceptable for the academic requirement.
That's a very good question. What I may just ask, Diogo, would you be able to pull out a link to our English language requirements page just to confirm that? Again, I don't want to say something and get it completely wrong and ruin someone's day in Colombia. So we will just double check that for you. But thank you for the question.
We're going to go then with, well, they're asking about different ways to certificate the English level, because we have here another question regarding that. So maybe you can, like, I don't know, explain to us which kind of exams they can like used to certificate the English level,
Yeah.
apart from the IELTS?
Yeah, of course. And now hopefully, so what I will do is, let me stop sharing my screen for a second and I can pop this there. Is hopefully put this in the chat to our English language page. I don't think I can actually post it in the chat, but if you are able just to Google LSE English language requirements, there is a whole breakdown there of what we accept. And now just having a scan through, you know, this can be IELTS, this can be the Cambridge English test, this can be TOEFL, all of these things. So again, apologies, I can't send this link in myself, but if you Google LSE English language requirements, have a look there. And just the only second thing I would add onto that is just to say, you don't need to worry about this now. So as the person was saying then about, you know, I presume this person's got an offer because that's the only reason we would ask them to confirm their English language. So congratulations. But actually, you only need to prove your English language to us if we make you an offer. So it might mean that you deal with that over the summer. So you don't have to panic now, is my answer.
Okay, good. We're going to go with Nicholas. He's asking, which is the minimum average between, I'm sorry, where is it? Okay. Which is the minimum average GMAT result to be eligible for a Master of Science in Finance and Private Equity?
Yeah, good question. So we don't actually set a minimum. So the way we work at LSE is we look at everything in the application. Now, what I would say is, while we don't set a minimum, I can tell you what we would consider to be a good score. And now I always get these two the wrong way around. So I'm sure someone's going to tell me in a minute if I have. But for GMAT, we say that a good score is 650 plus. And for GRE, I think it's 110 plus, we would say is a good result. Now, that's to say that's not a minimum. If you do get below that, we're not going to toss out your application. We look at it all together. And what some people can do is maybe they don't do so well on the GMAT test or the GRE test, but they write an amazing statement of purpose and they have an amazing CV and references that can kind of move things up. So everything is looked at together. But as I say, those would be what we consider to be good scores for those tests.
Good. Thank you. We're going to go with John. He's asking, does the partnership between Colfuturo and LSE apply for an MBA?
I don't think it would in this case. And the reason it wouldn't is because our MBA program is an executive program at LSE. So we work with a partner called Trium, and this is an MBA program that's shared between 4 different universities. So I don't think, sadly, it is eligible because it's an executive program. It's not a full-time taught in London program. So sadly, I don't think it is eligible for Colfuturo. But what I would say is if you are interested in MBA, kind of studies, have a look at our Masters of Management. I would say that would be the closest thing, the Masters of Management, and that absolutely is eligible.
Good. Then we're going to go with Laura. He's asking, how did you select the scholarship holders from the seedbed to access the 100 scholarship?
Could you say that again? Sorry.
So, yeah, how do you select the ones who get this 100 scholarship that we have with Colfuturo?
So I think that's basically up to Colfuturo. So that is up to you guys who is selected. I know that we guarantee, all students who come to us the same package. But yeah, that's up to you. So it's I'd say have a look on your website to see any advice and tips.
Voy a añadir algo para los que están interesados en esta beca del 100%, y es que es exclusivo para los participantes del semillero de talentos. Entonces, esa es como la única condición como tal para que se les otorgue esta beca del 100%. Yeah, we are going to go with Maria. She's asking, on average, how old are the participants of a master's degree in finance?
Again, a really good question. And I think it really honestly does vary. And I'm not just saying that it really varies. So we do get people who are straight out of undergraduate and they come to us straight after finishing their bachelor's. We get other people who've maybe done 1 or 2 years in work and come back. We get people who are doing mid-year, mid-career breaks, and even we get the odd person who's retired and just wants to come to kind of do it for fun. So I would say, the norm I would suggest would be people who've maybe had 1 or 2 years work experience. So maybe 23, 24, but we really do see all age groups at LSE.
Yeah. Let me see. I had another one. Wait, we have a lot of questions. I was with, I guess, Danielle. Let me check where it goes. Oh my God. Okay, yeah. We have Jonathan. He's asking, after finishing a master's degree in UK, do the students work in UK? How long?
Yeah. So we find that about 50% of our students stay in the UK. And now if you do choose to stay in the UK, one of the nice things that we have in place now is we have what's called a 3-year graduate route visa. And now the graduate route visa allows you to stay in the UK for at least 3 years after you graduate. So let's say you come to LSE, you really like London, you like being in the UK, well, you can stay if you want to. And we find that about 50% of our students do choose to do so. Of course, again, the one thing I would add to that of course, is that if you don't go back to Colombia, then there'll be issues there in kind of turning the value of the award into a scholarship, right? It would be the full loan you're repaying. But from our perspective, yes, lots of students choose to stay in the UK and they do lots of things. Yeah.
Okay, good. We're gonna go with, let me check. With Maria Fernanda. She's asking, if I am applying to the LLM, the 2 LSE programs I am allowed to pick would be the 2 specialisms of the LLM?
Yeah, good question. Again, lots of really good questions. I shouldn't have expected any different. So exactly right. So just to clarify, so when you apply to LSE, you do get 2 program choices as part of your application. Now, my advice would be probably not to, it may not even be possible on the system, but my advice would probably be not to apply for 2 different streams of the LLM. The reason I say that is because it's essentially the same program. Now that means the application will probably be read by the same person. And that means, right, if you get rejected for your first choice, which is the LLM, you're very unlikely to be accepted for your second choice, which is still the LLM, because it's the same program with the same selectors and graduate people. So what I would be advising realistically is to pick another subject as your second choice. We have lots of other programs that are related to law that aren't quite the LLM. But yes, it would be my advice to probably not apply for 2 streams. On the grounds that I think it may be a slightly wasted choice, because if you're rejected for your choice 1, you're pretty much guaranteed for the second one.
Yes, thank you. And the last 2 questions. The first one is from Nicholas. He's asking, for questions regarding PhD scholarships, should I reach directly to the program or should I discuss with a potential tutor?
Yeah, so maybe actually it's a good one to end on, just on the PhDs, just because I did skip over some of this. But Nicholas is exactly right. So I think the most important step when you are researching the PhD is to think about your research proposal, but then is to go online and have a look at what we actually do at LSE and look at some potential academics who might want to supervise you. Of course, we need someone at LSE who can support your research in order for you to come. So there has to be someone here who can do it. Now, one thing I should just add to that is that some departments would like you to contact their potential supervisor before applying. Other departments don't want you to do that. They just want to get your application and see how it goes. So that's just the first caveat I would add on to what Nicholas is asking. PhD supervisors are important, but in some cases, you don't actually want to contact them first. But for all questions regarding studentships, for financial support, for funding, please contact me. and contact our team. We can absolutely advise you on that. If you just Google Ask LSE, there's a whole range there to ask questions and advice. And if we don't know, we can ask the financial team for you, and you'll get a much quicker answer that way coming from us.
Okay, thank you. And the last one is the financial aid from the graduate support scheme additional to the 20% a successful Colfuturo applicant would get?
Yes. So the graduate support scheme is open to everyone at LSE, whether you are master's, whether you are PhD, and that is a flat sum, and that is purely based on need. So the way it works is if you are made an offer to study at LSE, you can then apply for the funding, and in that application you tell us, okay, well, I've got this amount and I've got this amount, but I still need this amount, and that's normally where LSE can step in to help. Now, as I say, if you've got Colfuturo funding, you may be less likely to receive this because you've already got a lot more than many other students from around the world. But in cases of definite need, that scheme is still there to support students. So that would be on top of the 20% we covered of the tuition fees, the graduate support scheme, the scholarships, the funding. That's all extra that you can consider.
Okay, good. Thank you so much, Nathan and Diego, because I know that you are answering all the questions in the chat. So thank you so much. I don't know if you can share maybe your contact information in case you have more questions regarding the process.
Yeah, I'd be very happy to. I think, again, I'm not, sadly, I think, able to post in the chat at the moment. I can just send to the hosts and panelists.
And I can share it on the chat.
Sure. Okay. If you just follow the link that I'm putting here, this is probably the best way. If you follow that link, Ask LSE, follow that link. Make sure I've just sent the right one, actually. It's probably the best way and the fastest way to get a question answered from us. Yeah.
Let me send it here. Okay. No, I send it to you. Well, I'm going to send all the ones who participate in the session because I don't have the option to send it in the chat. So, well, it was a really good session. Thank you all of the panelists and also the participants. And if you have any question regarding Colfuturo and this scholarship that we have with LSE, you can send a message to our email that is josefuturo@colfuturo.org. So thank you so much and have a wonderful day.